What if I tell you a single island in the Indian Ocean could decide the future of global trade and even shape the outcome of a major war? This is the story of Great Nicobar Island and why the world is suddenly watching it very closely. There are moments in geopolitics when power is not built through weapons but through infrastructure. The Great Nicobar Island Project is one such ambition. A $10 billion plan to build a port, an airport, and an entire city on a remote island. But beneath that lies something much bigger, a strategic shift, a geopolitical signal, and a silent contest between India and China. To understand this, you need to look at a map. Great Nicobar sits just north of the Strait of Malacca, one of the busiest trade routes in the world. Nearly a quarter of global trade passes through here. Oil, goods, energy, everything. If global trade is a bloodstream, Malacca is one of its most critical arteries. And Great Nicobar, it positions like a watchtower overlooking that artery. For decades, India had this advantage, but never fully utilized it. Now suddenly it is building a massive port, an airport, and a city right here. Why now? Because the world is changing and control over trade routes is becoming the new form of power. At the center of the plan is a deep water port at Galathea Bay, big enough to handle the world's largest container ships. Right now, a large portion of India's trade goes through foreign hubs like Singapore and Colombo, which means India pays others to move its own cargo. This project aims to change that. Adds to that an international airport, a power plant, and a massive township, and suddenly this island is no longer remote, it becomes a global logistics hub. Now, here is where things get serious. China depends heavily on the Malacca Strait. More than 80% of its oil imports pass through this narrow route. This vulnerability even has a name coined by former Chinese President Hu Jintao, the Malacca Dilemma. If this route is blocked, China's economy could take a massive hit. And now, India is building strategic infrastructure right next to it. Imagine a conflict scenario, just like present situation Strait of Hormuz. Shipping routes disrupt, naval forces deployed. Whoever controls the choke point controls the flow of energy. This is why Great Nicobar matters. It gives India the ability not just to observe but to influence. India already operates INS Baz here. Now it is expanding its presence. New airfields, advanced surveillance systems, stronger naval infrastructure. The islands have long been called a natural aircraft carrier. This project turns that idea into reality. China have been building ports across the region like Gwadar Port, Hambantota Port, and Kyouk Phu Port. This is often called the string of pearls. India's response? A network of its own. It is called as diamond necklace strategy by experts, and Great Nicobar is becoming one of its most important pieces. Yet, for all its promise, the project comes with profound cost. Great Nicobar is one of India's most ecologically sensitive regions. The project requires clearing nearly 130 square kilometers of forest and felling close to 1 million trees. It threatens habitats of endangered species like the leatherback sea turtle and disrupts fragile coastal ecosystems. Environmentalists argue that compensatory measures cannot replicate the complexity of ancient rainforests. There is another layer of risk, one written into the earth itself. Great Nicobar lies in Seismic Zone 5, the most earthquake-prone category in India. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, one of the deadliest disasters, struck close to this region. Parts of the island subsided dramatically, altering coastlines forever. Building massive infrastructure in such a volatile zone raises difficult questions about resilience and long-term safety. And then there is the human dimension. Deep within these forests lives the Shomfan tribe, a particularly vulnerable indigenous community of fewer than 300 people. They live in near total isolation. Their language is barely understood. Their way of life has remained unchanged for centuries. The expansion of infrastructure and population threatens not just their land but their very survival. Anthropologists warn that such rapid transformation could lead to cultural erasure. In many ways, the Shomfan represent a question that development often struggle to answer. progress for whom, and at what cost. Unsurprisingly, the project has become a focal point of political and legal contestation. While the government argues that it has secured environmental clearances with strict safeguards, critics and opposition question the frequency of these measures. Legal challenges continues, public debates intensifies. What emerges is not just a policy dispute, but a tension between ambition and responsibility, between national strategy and local realities. In the end, Great Nicobar is more than an infrastructure project. It is a test of whether India can utilize geography into power without losing sight of ecology and equity, a test of whether strategic ambition can coexist with environmental stewardship and human dignity. If successful, it could redefine India's role in the Indo-Pacific. If mismanaged, it could become a cautionary tale of overreach. But one thing is certain, once built, Great Nicobar will not simply exist within the strategic landscape, it will shape it. And perhaps that is what makes the Great Nicobar so important, not just because of where it is, but because of the choices it forces a nation to make. Can a country build strategic power without weakening the very ecosystem that protects it? Can development move forward without leaving indigenous communities behind? And in a century where geography is once again becoming destiny, can India turn this remote island into both a shield and a bridge for the future? Great Nicobar is not just about ports, runways, or trade corridors. It is about the kind of power India wants to become. Because history has shown us the world's most influential nations are not those that only build fast, but those that build wisely. And somewhere between the dense rainforest, the silent tribal settlements, and the crowd shipping lanes of the Indian Ocean, the answer to that question is slowly taking shape. This is Habit for Indian Masterminds. If you found this story insightful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, because the future of governance is not only written in parliament or battlefields, sometimes it begins on a distant island few people are watching.